Hi, my name is Jill Wheeler, and I'm a high school teacher at Carlisle High School. This is my 10th year of teaching. I went into teaching because I always loved to read and I always loved to write, and I liked working with kids, and so it seemed a natural step for me to become a high school English teacher. And so I did that, and I teach creative writing, which is my favorite class. And a few years ago, I started doing National Novel Writing Month with my students, which is where you write a novel in 30 days. It happens in November, and so we spend that whole month in the computer lab, and I set little mini goals for them, and I write along with them. And throughout this process, I actually wrote the manuscript, which would later become my first novel, Slide. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's my first young adult novel that came out in 2012. It's a murder mystery about a girl who is actually able to slide into other people's bodies and see the world through their eyes. And one night she slides into the head of a killer standing over a dead body who happens to be her sister's best friend. And the killer has set it up to look like a suicide. And Sylvia, the main character, is the only one who knows that it was not a suicide. And so, not to spoil the book for you, but people die, there are clues, it's a murder mystery, she has to figure it out. And after I wrote Slide, I was asked to write a sequel for that. So Imposter came out in 2013. It's pink. I like pink. It's pretty. And in this book, she starts to black out and find herself when she wakes up in certain situations that are strange and sometimes dangerous, and she begins to suspect that someone has been sliding into her and controlling her and making her do things. And there is also a mystery element to this as well. Who's sliding into her? Why? What do they want from her? That is my book that just came out in March of 2013. And I'm currently under another 2-book contract with HarperCollins. The one I'm working on right now should come out in late 2014, I believe. It's called Every Little Thing, and it's about a girl who is texting while driving and gets into a car accident and kills someone, and the last text that she sent happens to seem suicidal in nature, and she ends up going on trial for murder. And this is actually based on a real case. That's where I got the idea. So I am in the revision stages of that book. And then this summer I should be starting to work on my next book, which I'm pretty sure is going to be about a school shooting. Actually, when I got my master's, I did my project on violence in young adult literature because I was kind of terrified by the prospect of someone coming into a school with a gun. I was in college when Columbine happened, and it was just in my head ever since then. And I just wondered what happens to make a person do that. And I am just very interested in exploring that, and so that is why I think I'm going there for my next book. And in any case, that is my story. I am a teacher, I'm a writer, I'm a mom, I'm an Iowan. That's me.
Actually, I want to continue the conversation a little bit because I'm curious.
Okay.
What was the process? I'm kind of interested, and the kids might be interested. Like, what's the process of actually taking that next step? Like, you have a cool idea, and there might be writing stuff in their creative writing class. How did you go? I'm going to get an agent or submit this or whatever. What did you do?
So the publishing process, and you can find this all online, which is what I did. After I had written my first novel for National Novel Writing Month, I was like, hey, cool, I have this book and it's awesome and I'm gonna publish it, but I don't know how. So I Googled how to publish a book, and that's how I started to learn about agents and the querying process. It's basically like you send out a cover letter for your book describing the plot and the characters. And actually you want it to be more of like a hook, like you would see on the back of a book, so you make them want to read more. You kind of try to lure them in. And so then if an agent is interested, they'll request pages from you. And then if they love your book, then they might offer you representation. And I got really lucky because the agent who was interested in my book had 25 years in publishing. She was an editor in England, and so she was able to really help me get my manuscript into shape before we submitted to publishers. And I can't say enough good things about my agent. It's Sarah Davies at Greenhouse Literary Agency. She's since then published many YA authors. I think she's the number one YA agent right now, but I'm lucky because I got her when she was first starting out. So anyway, after I revised my book 15 bazillion times, then we were ready to send it out to publishers like HarperCollins. I can't think of all the big houses, but we sent them all out. And it was the most excruciating time in my life. I was checking my inbox every 5 seconds to see if we had gotten any feedback. And I did get a lot of rejections, and there were some close calls. Some editors said, you know, I loved this, but I didn't like this. But then it was very strange because we ended up getting 2. It looked like it was not going to happen. But then there were 2 publishers, 2 editors that both liked it. And so we went into a process called an auction, which is where my agent went to both of them and said, okay, well, this other person is interested in it. What are you willing to do? And so the editor that I ended up signing with at HarperCollins came out with what is called a preempt, and it's basically where they offer you an amount of money and you say, okay, we'll take that and we're done. And she offered that and we accepted that, and it was, I remember I was in my classroom and I got an email from my agent and she said, can you talk? And I was like, yes, I'm at school, but it's during my prep period, I can talk. And she was like, are you sitting down? And I was like, yes. And so she called me and she told me, and it was like my whole life had changed, because my whole life, my dream was to see my name on a book in a library or in the bookstore. And it was just the knowledge of that was going to happen. It just changed my whole life. And of course, the reality is very different from the dream. There's a lot of sweat that goes into it. I wrote my book 15 bazillion more times before it actually was on the shelves. And then you start the process again with the next book. And there's a lot of uncertainty. You don't know whether it's going to do well. Contracts get canceled all the time. But honestly, the best part is when I get an email from someone who has read my book and they tell me they loved it, or their kid loved it and then they read it. And I think that makes it all worth it for me. It doesn't matter whether my book is bigger or not, somebody liked it. Somebody read it and they liked it. And that for me is the dream. So I'm happy.
That's great. And you're still teaching, right?
I am still teaching, which makes it hard. I like to write my rough drafts during the summer and do my revisions during the school year, but that doesn't always work out, because in publishing, your editor might send you an email and say, okay, I'd like a revision in 2 weeks. And then you say, okay, I don't have to sleep or anything, and you get it done.
Yeah. How has it affected your teaching?
What the aspect of being published, or the aspect of being a writer who has deadlines during teaching?
I think I get the deadlines, so I think I'd ask more about how does it change, like maybe the kids' perception of you, or maybe what you do in class, or or being able to express,
I think maybe it gives me a little more credibility if I tell someone about something about their writing. I think they're like, okay, well, you've been published, so I guess I'll take that seriously. But I do try to explain that any suggestions I have, I am only a person and this is only an opinion. So unless I'm telling you this is a comma splice error and this is why and you need to fix it, the more subjective feedback I give to kids, I try to be like, this is my opinion. In the end, it's your piece of writing. You do what you want with it. And they have that choice of whether they want to change it or not.
Are they clamoring to get into your creative writing class?
I have 8 kids in my creative writing class right now. Yep.
Everyone watching just...
I kind of love it though, because creative writing as a class, I love to have small groups where people can really get to know each other intimately, and it is kind of like you're putting yourself out there. And by the end of any creative writing class I've had, there is a sense of camaraderie, and those people are friends for the rest of their high school careers. I don't know, what happens to them after they go off into the real world, but there is something that's forged there through words and through sharing themselves, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I guess I'd say thanks for coming to the I.C.T.E conference. So
thanks for having me.
Thanks.